All right, Larry Krueger here at Levi's Stadium for the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. Richard Sherman with the story of the day on the Richard Sherman podcast on CMC. We will talk about that coming up next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. The food is amazing. We were there on Sunday. Go check it out. Also, this video brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, right along the Monterey Peninsula. Go say hi to my friend Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264 for all your sports cards and collectible needs. And we all know that people who are into cards and collectibles, they need to know where to go. Where do you go? You go to Sharp Corners. All right, let's talk about Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman said on his podcast that Christian McCaffrey is a full go for Sunday without any setbacks and expect him to play a significant role this week in Tampa. Here is a little exchange on the Richard Sherman podcast, and then we'll talk about it coming up next.
In brighter news in San Francisco, I know you got to be pumped about this one. Word on the street is as long as there's no red flags, CMC is going to play this Sunday against the Bucs. Have you heard any news? I know you got your ear to the ground over there.
Yeah, I mean, I heard it from the horse's mouth. He feels really good, and he felt like he could have probably played last week, but they wanted to be overly cautious and just give him more weeks of practice and more time to really work that thing out and feel comfortable and feel confident, and he does. Nothing's like game reps, and until he gets out there in a game and is able to cut and get the adrenaline going and feel himself throughout a ball game, he's still going to have to knock the rust off just in game, football is a really fast game, a really violent game. Very few people can come in and just say, hey, I'm putting on pads and I'm going to be the player I was when I was offensive player of the year, first game into the season. Everybody else is 9 games in. They've got their hits. They got their soreness. They got the speed of the game. They're in rhythm. He has to find a way to get in rhythm, but I think all signs point to him playing and likely probably playing a significant role in this game.
Well, we'll see. I mean, like you said, if they're going to bring him back, they might as well give him a healthy dose of touches. And Lord knows when CMC gets the ball in his hands, that offense is a new cheat code, right? I mean, it unlocks an entire new dynamic for them. What are your expectations for the team moving forward with him back? I mean, do you think the division is theirs now that he's healthy-ish?
Well, the division isn't anybody's, you know what I mean? If I could predict that, Mitchell, I'd go to Vegas and bet a whole lot of money on it. It's just such an unpredictable season. They're a really talented team. What they should be doing is one thing. What they actually do will be a whole nother thing. What I could say on paper it should be, and it should be a lot of success, but I've been wrong on paper and off paper before. So you hope for the best for him. You just hope that he goes out there and he's healthy and he's given his best, his best effort, and he's able to play up to his abilities. And I think it'll work out for the San Francisco 49ers and at least get into the playoffs. And, if they get into the playoffs, they got a shot. I think anytime they get into the playoffs, they have a chance to make some noise and make a run.
So there you go, Richard Sherman on his podcast talking about CMC and his return. And I thought it was interesting. I mean, one, from the standpoint of, there's several elements of this that are interesting. One, that CMC felt like he could have played in the last game. I guess that was a couple weeks ago against Dallas, and that they held him out as just a precautionary thing. I mean, that's a good sign. We'll see. I mean, ultimately, that's a great sign. If you say what's a good sign in this thing, that's a great sign. But the other, kind of ominous line in here from Richard Sherman is that he's like nothing mocks up game reps. I mean, nothing replaces game reps. Football is a fast and violent game, and you need to make sudden movements, and game speed is not the same as practice speed. So we'll just have to wait and see how those Achilles respond. He mentioned how Christian's got to find a rhythm. That's really it. I mean, everybody else, he's hitting the ground here in November. Everybody got their rhythm in September. August and September, that's when football players typically find their rhythm. And he's been out of the mix all year. So now here it is November and everybody's in full rhythm, and he's got to establish his. So that's his disadvantage. But it's not all one way, right? So there's an advantage as well. Those guys are running around with all kinds of dings, fatigue, muscle soreness, everything that goes along with playing football for 3 months straight. He doesn't have any of that wear and tear. He should be full go. He should be a step faster. He should be springier, more explosive, fresher, feeling great. 49er fans have never really seen a healthy Christian McCaffrey this late in the year. Not healthy, but a Christian McCaffrey that's this fresh this late in the year. That could be very intriguing. If he's fully healthy from the Achilles, he might be a tad more explosive and a tad faster than you even remember him, just because he hasn't had the wear and tear of playing football every day since the middle of July. So when he trades in rhythm, he gains in explosiveness and speed and breakaway ability, in my opinion. So we'll see how it all shakes out. So he's got to establish that rhythm. That's the downside. The upside is he could make some big plays because he's really fresh and maybe a little quicker. Sherman also said that he felt like the NFC West was wide open. He didn't want to make a prediction on the division. But he basically said what the rest of us are thinking, that if the Niners can make it to the playoffs, they can make a run. And I've been saying that for the last couple of weeks as well. It's like, does this look like a vintage Niner team? No. They have injuries. Ayuk's done for the year. He's not coming back, and he's one of their best, offensive players for sure. But if the Niners can get to the playoffs, the Niners do have a wealth of experience in that room. Between the coaches, Shanahan, the players, almost every guy in that room outside of the rookies has experienced postseason football. And, several rounds, including many of those guys have played in the Super Bowl. So they're not going to be like, we got to go to Minnesota, our season's over. Oh, my God, we have to go to Green Bay, pack it in. Oh, we have to go to Ford Field and beat Detroit. Oh, we can't do that. We'll never win. I mean, they're not going to have that kind of attitude. They were just in the Super Bowl. There's a lot of winners in that room. There's a lot of guys with a lot of championship pedigree in that room. They're not going to wither at the idea of playing on the road in the NFC. So I agree with Sherman wholeheartedly. If the Niners can get to the playoffs, they got a shot. They absolutely have a shot. All right, let's talk about Sunday night, or Sunday morning, I should say. What are we going to see? I think no matter what the plan is, now they say a significant role for CMC, and I think he will have a significant role based on what I'm hearing. But I would say expect to see CMC, Mason, and Garendo, all three get carries. In fact, this is going to be the Bucs trio of runners against the Niners trio of runners. On Tampa Bay's side, they've got Sean Tucker, Bucky Irving, and Rashad White. On the Niners side, they have Christian McCaffrey, J.P. Mason, and Isaac Garendo. And probably, of all the different battles this weekend, that one right there could define this football game. Whatever trio of running backs goes off in this game probably is the team that wins the game. I'll go with CMC, Mason, and Garendo to get it done. 49. This game reminds me an awful lot of the Jacksonville game a year ago. Niners coming off the bye, flying across the country, playing a Florida team in the morning window, needing to kind of, show that they're at a new level. A lot of people had a lot of questions going into that Jacksonville game. A lot of the people at the time were saying, hey, the Niners are favored by 3. The Jaguars should be favored by 3. The wrong team was favored. I remember Kyle Brandt on the NFL Network did a whole thing on the morning show, Good Morning Football, how the Jaguars should have been favored in that game. Niners went there, they routed the Jaguars, and took off in the second half. I think we're going to see a similar thing here. There's no Chris Godwin, there's no Mike Evans. I think the Niners go to Tampa and win convincingly on Sunday and get the second half rolling in grand fashion. That's what I expect to see. But interesting video from Sherman, and the story of the day is that McCaffrey could have played last week and didn't, just taking extra precautions, and is going to play on Sunday barring a setback, and he could have a significant role Sunday against Tampa. So that's the story. I can't wait to see it. To me, he looked a little cautious running around on Monday, but he looked better yesterday. And let's hope he has no setbacks. If the 49ers, I'll say this one last point here. If the 49ers I didn't like what the Niners did at the trade deadline. Khalil Davis and adding, a veteran safety in Tayshaun Gibson when other teams did much more and the Niners had a ton of needs kind of leaves you going, what? That's all they did? But I will say this. If they get the Dre Greenlaw that we saw in the past, if that Dre Greenlaw comes back, they've improved immeasurably on defense. If the CMC from last year or anything, approximating last year comes back, the 49ers are getting, a huge influx of talent here at the post-trade deadline. So I wanted to see them do more. I won't pretend that I didn't. I'm a little disappointed that they didn't do more. But once again, if Greenlaw and CMC come back and return to form, the 49ers could be the team to beat in the second half of the year. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.